how a lightsaber comes into this movie is absolutely ridiculous. It does not work. There is no point for that lightsaber to be there.
He just extends his lightsaber, right?
He's a hologram. What? How is you stupid? Yeah, we'll get into some more detail on that. We'll get into some more detail on that later on.
You know that meme with like Neil deGrasse Tyson and like holding back Albert Einstein when he's getting like it's like you right now, like calm down, calm down.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rewatch podcast. My name is Samuel.
And my name is Jayden.
And this is a podcast where we rewatch classic or current films every week and then decide whether they deserve a rewatch from you. Before we begin, a like on this video would be most appreciated. You can subscribe if you would like. If you're tuning in on Spotify or another major podcast app, you can find us on YouTube by searching The Rewatch. So this week, we rewatched Solo, A Star Wars Story. Regarded by some as being one of the worst Star Wars movies of all time. And it is, in fact, the only Star Wars movie that did not turn a profit. So
it didn't.
This movie actually lost money. So there's a hashtag going around of, Solo lost money is a quite prominent hashtag amongst the Star Wars community. Because this film was not particularly well received, was it, Jayden?
No, and I think that's partly due to the fact that people probably didn't like the casting for this film. I mean, it's kind of hard to play, Harrison Ford or Billy D. Williams because they're such iconic characters in Star Wars. But when I watched this film for the first time back in, I want to say 2017, 2018 when it came out, I actually thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think I enjoyed it definitely more than The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. So in my eyes, it's not even a bad film. So I don't know why it probably would have received such a negative rating on it, because I thoroughly enjoyed it and I'd watch it again. So
yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I think the reason why, or my theory as to why this film absolutely bombed, is because it came a year after The Last Jedi. And so at this stage, I remember watching this movie. I only had watched this movie once before rewatching it for this podcast. And I watched it in the theaters. And I just remember I was absolutely fuming as a Star Wars fan at that time period, because we had just had The Last Jedi and we'd had 6 months or so to really, digest it and, get rid of that first movie watching bias that we all have when we come out of a film. We're like, oh, that was all right. And then a couple months later, we realized that was an absolutely terrible movie. So at that stage, as a Star Wars fan, I was just not ready for this. Like I was done with Star Wars. I was completely, I was not on board with this Disney Star Wars stuff. And so when they announced an origin story for Han Solo, I thought, oh dear, you're going to try and ruin Han Solo, are you? Like you're going to try and, degrade not even the legacy, because they did that in The Force Awakens, didn't they? But even they're just going to batter him some more. And so I think a lot of fans felt that way watching this movie. And definitely it was almost like fans used this movie to send a message about The Last Jedi, because The Last Jedi made about $1 billion or something.
Which it definitely shouldn't have.
Exactly. But that's just because it was the sequel to The Force Awakens. So of course it was, and I think Solo, once those fans had that time to digest and really, form an opinion on what they thought of The Last Jedi, Solo was, it was in the
It was
crosshairs,
stuck in
really.
the middle, yeah.
Yeah, so unfortunately for Solo, it caught most of that backlash. But yeah, so it lost money, and it was nominated for an Oscar, Best Visual Effects. It was did not win that. I think it's probably fair
I
enough.
can see why it was nominated though. I mean, this movie had some incredible stuff in it. And just off the top of
Mm.
my head, the scene where we see, I think it was the gravity well with that
Oh, that's
massive,
sick.
that was so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so definitely like some good moments in this film. But so, how many times have you watched this film? You obviously saw it in the cinemas, correct?
Yeah, I want to say like 3 or 4 times. I've definitely watched it a few times. I think it came out on Netflix before Disney Plus was released, so around
Okay.
3 or 4 times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. 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 Yeah. So I saw this in the theater, saw it, didn't like it at all, and then just wrote it off. Never went back to it. Much like the Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker,
hmm
and the Force Awakens. Since those movies came out. So
This is where I want to ask you a question, right? I want
yeah.
to know whether, and don't reveal too much because we'll go into like an in-depth rating at the end when we give our reviews on it. But I want to know whether your opinion has changed from the last time you watched it.
Yes. No. That is a question. That is a question. And it was watching the film, it just felt so bizarre. It felt like I hadn't even seen the film before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's because I was probably sitting in that theater with a very like I wanted the film to be bad, I think,
Yeah.
because I think all Star Wars fans were just so mad at that time, and I think it's fair enough. The Last Jedi was absolutely rubbish, but
Yeah.
we'll get to that eventually. But Solo was just for me. It never had a reason to exist, except for a cash grab from Disney. Nobody was really wondering, or nobody really, there was no real desire for Han Solo's origin story.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I love those three original movies, and I love the prequels, as we've covered on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I really did not like this movie in the theaters, but when watching it, yeah, definitely my opinion has
There you go.
changed.
Yeah.
Um, but to a certain extent, but we'll have to find out later on as to where I'd place this, amongst other Star Wars films, because I think this is okay. Like, it's not fantastic, but it's not as bad as everybody says it was.
That's what I'm saying. This film didn't have a lot of like major setbacks to it. And if I was to, base a film off of its box office performance, I would most definitely put this above, The Last Jedi. This film had so many better things about it than The Last Jedi. And it's just insane to me that people hate on this film when I actually really enjoyed it.
Mm.
Yeah.
They don't even, mistreat the character of Han Solo that much. I think that was what I was worried about when I was watching the film for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
There is one key instance that we will have to talk about later on, but there's one thing about how they sort of gave Solo his origin in this film that I really have an issue with, like a major, major, major issue with. But apart from that, I think it's fine. Like, it's not disgraceful to the character.
Yeah.
And there are definitely some other things that I feel like should not have been in the film. But overall, I think it's all right.
Hmm.
So yeah.
I'm,
So if
I'm
you're
happy that
wondering,
your opinion has changed, to be honest.
yeah, well, to be honest, me too. I mean, I don't go into any movie wanting it to be bad. I don't want, obviously I want all of the Star Wars movies to be fantastic. I'm a Star Wars fan at the end of the day.
Mm.
But because I am a fan, and because you are a fan, you know,
We care
we
dearly about him, so
exactly, exactly. So when things go wrong and when we see characters mistreated, we get beyond angry
yeah.
because we feel like we have some sort of attachment and ownership of those characters, and they're such an integral part of us growing up that to see them mistreated really angers us, and we saw that in the Last Jedi. But I want to
Mm.
stop talking about the Last Jedi now. But onto Solo. So, if you're wondering, the viewers who probably haven't seen this film in a while, maybe haven't seen it at all, it's obviously the origin story of Han Solo, who appears in the three original trilogy films, so the first three Star Wars films.
Mhm.
When we're first introduced to him in New Hope, he's a smuggler. He's full of himself. He's just classic Han Solo, isn't he? Like
Yeah.
Han Solo is an adjective. Um, so in this film, it can be summarized in the following way. During an adventure into the criminal underworld, Han Solo meets his future co-pilot, Chewbacca, and encounters Lando Calrissian years before joining the rebellion. And many, many years before joining the rebellion, I
Can I
might
just
add.
add, that is a terrible overview of the film.
Yes, I agree.
That
IMDb
there's
needs to
so
step
much
up
more
their
to this
game.
film than, hey, he meets these two people.
Yeah.
That's the end of the film. I mean,
Mm,
there's so many more elements to it. So that is a bad overview.
I
Yeah.
agree. Yes, I didn't make it. It's IMDb's
I'm not hating on you.
domain name. um, but no, I agree. But to stick up for IMDb, I think a lot of people are going to watch this movie because of Han Solo, Chewbacca, and Lando. So got to fit those three in because apart from they give Lando a bit of a mention here, but he's not sort of that integral, and Chewbacca doesn't get much screen time, but there's definitely a lot of other things going on. So, all right, let's dive into the characters for a second. Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo. When everyone saw that he was cast, they were furious. And
Yeah.
and how do you feel about his performance?
Um, there were certain things that I wrote down. Yeah, so I wrote down that, is it Alden Ehrenreich? I want to say.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so
Ehrenreich.
I'll just say Alden. I actually really liked his performance, and when I was watching it, he doesn't look anything like Harrison Ford, but he really got his mannerisms down, and I'm not sure if you picked up on this. And so I saw it in the first scene. Um, he kind of does that weird head nod thing that Harrison Ford does in the cantina on Tatooine in A New Hope,
Oh,
but also at the end where we have that sort of fight scene on Kessel, just before they get on the Millennium Falcon and get out of there.
how he's holding the
He's
gun.
holding the gun exactly
Yeah,
like Harrison Ford, and
yeah.
that's when I realized, Alden actually has potential to be, a younger Han Solo. And just I've watched it again, and I've seen it every time, and every time it gets better. So I actually really liked his performance in this film, even though people quote unquote shit on him for not looking anything like him. And I don't think that's how you should, base an actor's performance, because you can look as much as you want to look like at an actor, but if you don't get his mannerisms down and you don't portray him in the same way, it's not going to be good. And we can kind of see this with Ewan McGregor and Alec Guinness as well, because they don't look anything
Mm.
alike. But Ewan McGregor also captures his essence of the character, which makes him such a good character. So yeah, I actually really liked Alden's Han Solo.
Yeah, I actually completely agree. I think when you're playing a younger version of a character that already exists, you can't copy them because you're
No,
playing a younger version of them. So you have to sort of adapt that, but into a younger personality. And I think Ewan McGregor did that really, really well because you couldn't be, oh, I'm Obi-Wan,
yeah,
of course I know him. He's me. Like you can't do that with 30-year-old Obi-Wan
mm,
who's doing like flips and, quadruple backflips
yeah,
and, doing all sorts of twirls with his lightsaber. You have to sort of give your own take on it.
yeah.
And I think Alden's performance is actually fantastic. Like
Mm.
I don't think he could have done much better.
And he's got
And
that kind
so,
of cocky, arrogant
mm,
attitude to him as well, which I really
yeah.
like. Mm.
Yeah, no, really, really good. So Joonas Suotamo is Chewbacca. Basically, they just needed a very, very tall guy, and then that's him
Yeah,
to
so
play Chewbacca.
Peter Mayhew actually passed away, who played the original Chewbacca, and I think that was, I want to say like
It was recent.
2016, I want to say.
Mm,
And then Joonas has played Chewbacca since, so I think he's played it in The Last Jedi and The
yeah,
Rise of Skywalker.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And I know it sounds weird, but you can actually tell. That's the weird thing.
You
You
can?
can actually tell that. Yeah, no, I can definitely tell. I think it's the eyes.
Okay.
The the way that they've done the eyes in the original trilogy compared to the sequels is very different, and so,
Actually, no,
you know,
I do pick up on that as well. They look more
um,
like a lot more black in the original trilogy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely more like animal-like, whereas you can definitely see that there's a human,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
there's human eyes, but yeah. Woody Harrelson as Tobias Beckett is actually I really liked, Woody Harrelson in this role.
You did?
Yeah,
Mm.
I thought, you know, his character or maybe I didn't like Woody Harrelson per se, but I feel like Tobias Beckett as a character is pretty good, but yeah, maybe miscast,
That's what I'm
Woody
thinking.
Harrelson.
He didn't really
Yeah,
work for me in this film. I mean,
yeah.
he kind
Is
of
he
stood
too
out.
old or something, or
I don't think it's that. It's something about it that just stood out to me as, he wasn't really fitting in the Star Wars, lore to me. I'm not sure what it
mm,
was, but
maybe he's too famous,
his performance wasn't bad at all. It was kind of overshadowed by, all of the other
mm,
ones that were great as well.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. And this probably the worst performance in my opinion is Emilia Clarke as Qi'ra.
Okay.
Um, I don't know, you know, sometimes I thought, oh, she's really not good in this, and then sometimes I thought, oh, she's actually quite good. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so she was up and down for me. But I think we can probably agree that probably one of the best
Yeah.
performances in this movie is by Donald Glover as
Oh,
Lando Calrissian. And when casting this character, you have to get somebody like Donald Glover who's got that, you know, that coolness to him,
yeah.
you know.
Mm.
So I think this is probably one of your favorites in the film,
Oh,
Donald Glover as Lando.
I love Donald Glover's performance as well. And it's the same thing that we saw with Alden with Han Solo. Donald Glover fits Lando's mannerisms, and he definitely portrays a younger Billy D. Williams, and it just fits so well. And I think one of the things I picked up on was Lando calling Han actually Han, as Billy D. Williams
Yes,
did in
that's
the
funny.
original trilogy. So that was kind of a cool callback as well.
Mm,
But no, Donald Glover is probably my favorite performance in this movie by quite a significant margin. Yeah.
yes. Going back to negative, Paul Bettany as Dryden
Yeah,
Boss,
see,
terrible.
yeah. It might be the big A-list actors that just don't fit in a film like
Yeah,
this.
you can't put Vision in the Star Wars universe. I'm
Mm.
sorry. Like you you know, this is why Daisy Ridley was cast as Rey. Nobody knew who Daisy Ridley
She was a
was.
nobody.
Exactly. And John Boyega, sure, like he was probably a bit more prominent than Daisy Ridley, but to mostly nobody knew who he was.
Mm.
You can't stick famous people in this movie, and I think there were big production problems with this. The original directors, Lord and Miller, were fired by Kathleen Kennedy, God bless her, for
The force is
probably
female.
they were probably doing too much of a good job, and Kathleen Kennedy was like, "No, we can't have that. Out you go."
Hold on there. We
Um,
need to get a bad box office review. I don't know what you guys are.
that's my job, right? Yeah, so Paul Bettany, his actual character was supposed to be an alien, like a big CGI puppet esque,
Really?
you know. Yeah, and production issues meant that they just had to get Paul Bettany in and put some scratches on his face and make him look like he's a villain, and it just doesn't work. No, it doesn't
Oh
work.
my god, I'm seeing your the next character, and I'm just realizing.
Yeah, John Favreau is in this movie as
Yeah.
the four-armed dude.
Oh, what was his name? Rio. It was Rio.
Oh, yeah, no, I loved him. Shame he only got through, like, you know, a couple minutes.
That
But,
was one of the negatives I had with this film, and I felt like all of the deaths in this film, they just meant nothing. Like,
yeah.
I hadn't really connected with the characters. Like, I
Mm,
think some of the deaths happened in like the first 30, 40 minutes. Um, and I've only just gotten to know them for like 20 minutes, and then they die, and it's like, oh,
mm,
okay, let's keep going. Like, I didn't really
yeah,
care. Um,
yeah,
and even towards the end, no spoilers, but we see another significant character die as well, and I just didn't really care. Like, if I was
yeah,
watching the original trilogy, I would care because I've established that connection with them over multiple films. But obviously, there's a drawback. This is a single one-off film, so they can't do it. But they had so much death in this film, and I feel like they could have handled it a lot better.
yeah. No, I agree with that. Generally, pros for this film. I couldn't think of many, but I did somewhat enjoy watching this film actually. But
Mm.
the standout to me was Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo. I think he's probably the best part of the entire film.
Him and Lando were very close. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and I actually really liked how they sort of developed that Solo and Chewie relationship.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
I really liked that as well. The scene where Chewie gets in the co-pilot spot,
Mm-hmm.
and then Disney like, oh, this is a good moment, so let's chuck in some really nostalgic music, and then they put it in, and they're like, hey guys, look, like this, look, we're playing your favorite music,
Ugh.
look, it's your favorite people in the cockpit. And we're like, yeah, I get it, Disney. I'm supposed to feel nostalgic. I do. You win. But other pros, I don't know.
You don't know anymore?
Well, I have got some major cons. So if you want to move to those, spoiler free at the moment, of course. But
I might just add on pros. I did
mm,
like how what I like about the original trilogy, right, is how they use all the aspects of Star Wars, right? They have
mm,
aliens, they've got lightsabers, they've got blasters, they've got good guys, bad guys, they've got everything, right? And I feel like what we're seeing in the sequel trilogy now is just lightsabers, 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 good guy, bad guy, lightsabers. It's just all lightsabers, right?
mm.
This film made a good film with just these characters without lightsabers, and towards the end, obviously.
Yes, and
Yeah.
that's my major problem with the film as well.
Oh, you don't like it because of that? I actually like this
Um,
film because they didn't have that, hand to hand combat. Because
oh no, I agree.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so no, I agree, but they almost went the entire film without showing a lightsaber,
Mm,
and this is what we had promised when Disney announced that they were doing Rogue One and doing Solo, like two spin-offs. They were like, "Don't worry, guys, these will be different. They won't have lightsabers."
mm-hmm.
We were like, "Okay, okay, sounds good. I'm interested." But you can tell that Disney just didn't really believe in the product they had. They just had to stick a lightsaber in there at
Yeah.
some stage. They do it in Rogue One, but I think that's so good that I'll let it slide.
Mm-hmm.
But in this movie, how a lightsaber comes into this movie is absolutely ridiculous. It does not work. There is no point for that lightsaber to be there.
He just
And there's
extends his
hardly
lightsaber, right?
Y he's a hologram. What? How is you stupid yeah, we'll get into
Calm down,
some
calm
more
down.
detail on that. We'll get into some more detail on that later on.
You
But
know that
my
meme
god.
with like Neil deGrasse Tyson and like holding back Albert Einstein when he's getting like it's like you right now, like calm down, calm down.
It just blows my mind. It's like they did not believe in this product, that they had to stick a fan favorite character and, "Oh, look, there's a lightsaber, only
Hmm.
a bit of it. It doesn't matter. Why is there a lightsaber? We don't
I'll
know."
tell you why there is a lightsaber, right? It's tradition for every Star Wars movie to have a lightsaber in it.
Yeah, but these are standalone films. It's
I
supposed to be
know,
something
but
different.
it's been a tradition since 1978 or whatever, so it'd be a bit hard to break it now.
Oh no, I'll push back. I'll push
You
back.
could have pushed back, okay?
Do we get C-3PO in this movie?
No. Okay, okay. No,
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 no, no.
no,
Wait, wait, wait,
no.
wait. I do see R2D2 at one point though. I
Ooh,
did see
you do?
R2D2. I mean, it might be a separate R2 unit, but I
Astromech.
did see. I think I did see R2D2 at the start of the film
Where was he?
with that
Tell me.
opening sequence. So when Han and Qi'ra are sort of running away from the bad guys, there's like a wide shot of the door that they have to get through, and you can see it might not be R2, but knowing Disney Star Wars, it probably
Probably
is.
was.
But
Mm.
the fact that I bring that up is because they're usually in every single Star Wars movie,
Yeah.
and they are in Rogue One, but then C-3PO is not in this one. So, I mean, it just annoys me. Like, if you're going to make a standalone movie, go all in on it. I think it just shows that they didn't believe in the project.
Yeah.
They didn't believe that they could tell a good story and get fans interested without chucking a red lightsaber in there for us to be like, ooh, yay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want to see a lightsaber, I'll just go like watch any other Star Wars movie. Like,
One thing about this film, right, is I feel like over the duration of it, right, it kind of
Mm.
slowly decreased, and I didn't like it. It
Yeah,
was
I
going
agree.
along. The start was really good, and I was like in with the film from the start. I was
Mm.
committed to it, and then towards the end, it got really confusing, and there was all these
Yeah.
intertwining plot lines, and
Mm.
what do they call it?
Twists.
Plot twists, just coming out of
Yeah.
nowhere, and it's like, here's a plot twist, but was it a plot twist?
Oh, and here's
And
another
here's
one.
another one. It's like, hold on, how many plot twists are there? Like,
Yeah.
I need time to digest this one before you tell me
Exactly.
another
Yeah.
one.
Mm.
So that's another negative about the film that probably stood out to me as well.
Yeah. No, for sure. I feel like it might be too long. But
This was a
yeah.
long film. This was longer than some of the Skywalker saga films, I think.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think it's like
interesting.
2 hours 15 minutes, this one.
Yeah, and it's definitely feels longer as well.
Mm.
But but yeah, no, I agree. Like I was on board for that first bit. But yeah,
Let's get into it.
let's dive into it now. Yeah, so we'll start off with that first bit. Obviously, at the very start of this film, another differentiation of these standalone Star Wars films is that they don't have an opening crawl.
Hmm.
But in this film, the plot line was so crap that they had to put an opening crawl. But it's not even an opening crawl. It's like a fake opening crawl. It's like it's not even like Blade Runner, where Blade Runner, like, it tells you what a Blade Runner is. That's it.
Uh-huh.
Get into the film. This is like it's an opening crawl, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it explains like who this is and who that is,
Well, they
and
need
within
to give us
15 minutes.
somewhat of an introduction.
I don't think they did. I
You
don't
don't
think
think they
they
did?
did. I feel like if you completely missed that, your experience wouldn't have been ruined at all, because it just tells you about the big alien at the start, really, doesn't it? Like the alien that
That
keeps
is
Han in
true, actually.
captivity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I it just bizarre. It just highlights the show that production was for this film. I think this film definitely experienced some issues,
And I think that
but
was
yeah,
partly due to the fact that it's kind of like Justice League, right? They had to switch
mm,
directorial
yeah,
roles after already shooting. So there was bound to be confusion and there was bound to be errors with it. And it's just a shame because this film could have been a great film, right? But
mm,
you get people like Kathleen Kennedy who just absolutely trash the name of Star Wars. And then it just annoys me so much that we could have had a great film about Han Solo and then we get an average film about Han Solo.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to go back to that opening crawl, I'm not finished yet. It says one of the lines in the opening crawl is "It's a lawless time." Like, it's Star Wars. Of course it is. It's in the name. Star Wars. There are wars going on. Things are not right. Things are never right in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
There are always laws being broken, and there's always bad guys and good guys. And it's like, why do we need to be told it's a lawless time? It's like, just show us. Like, in that first 15 seconds, we know that things are not all happy and, you know, it's a lawless time.
Mm.
Yeah, you don't say. It's like, whatever. What did you think of the music in this film?
Um, Kind of just felt like they were going back to what Star Wars is good for. Just John Williams' scores kind of slightly edited. Um,
Yeah.
but like I
But
said to you
that was it.
beforehand, I did like the trailer music for one of the trailers,
Mm,
but that's in the trailer and it doesn't even appear in the film. So the
yeah.
music, it complements the film, but it didn't really stand out to me.
Yeah. No, same. I sometimes feel like the music actually didn't fit for what was going on in the actual like movie.
Okay.
Perhaps production issues affected that as well, but for me, there were no real instances apart from when Han Solo starts flying the Millennium Falcon. Apart from that, I feel like a lot of the music just didn't really fit what was going on. But yeah, that's just my thoughts.
Hmm.
But there is a good song that I will put in the rewatch playlist this week that we'll go to when we get to the music section.
Yeah.
But when we start this movie, there's a blue tone over everything. We've seen that in Blade Runner. We've seen that with Tron Legacy.
Hmm.
What did you think of that blue tone in this movie?
So I know I said on the other episode, right, that um, color overtones on films don't really work for me. But one thing I did like about this film was the environments and was the way that they shot it and how it looked. This film was
Mm.
really cool to look at, and I feel like that's one of the things that made me so invested in this film was, the scenery and this massive open world environment that we haven't seen in Star Wars before, because a lot of the stuff we've seen in this film is just completely new content and media. So, I actually really like the starting scene, which we'll get into like right now. Um, Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah. When I was watching the movie, I had different thoughts.
Okay.
In order to not have to put in 25 beeps on this episode, to take a bit of editing, I'm going to censor myself. Um, so I've written here, like, obviously I acknowledge the fact that there's like this dusty blue tone
Yeah.
over that first bit, and it is very Blade Runner-esque. But I write, how does Blade Runner make it look so good and Solo makes it look so bad?
Bad.
You can tell this movie was rushed. Something. It looks like it looks not good. For me, it's funny that we differentiate on that, really, because I think this movie, like, especially when the if I can, really drill it down to one particular issue, it's the lighting.
Hmm.
There's a lot of times in this film where there's shadows blocking things, and like it just
Didn't work for
whoever
you?
did the lighting didn't work for me in this film, but different strokes for different folks, you
Yeah.
see. So
Yeah.
no, but that's cool. I think Star Wars movies are always nice to look at because they're always like somewhat polished.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the CGI is fantastic, but unfortunately,
This one didn't work
I
for you,
think
man.
I think this one didn't look as good as The Force Awakens, or even The Last Jedi. I don't know.
That's so
But
weird. I really liked how this film looked. Mm.
yeah, that is weird. No, I admit, like, a lot of the action scenes and all of the space stuff looks fantastic, and obviously the wormhole or the gravity hole bit
Gravity Well.
is, yeah, the gravity well is absolutely, like, incredible.
Mm.
Like, I love that scene. But the rest just, I don't know, didn't really look good to me. But anyway, what are your other thoughts on that? That first sort of half an hour where we introduced to Han Solo, introduced to, well, actually, I should say, introduced to Han, and introduced to Qi'ra. And so, what were your thoughts on there? And when they get separated and everything like that, what were your thoughts on that opening chase?
Okay, yeah. No, I really thoroughly enjoyed the. I keep saying thoroughly. I need to stop doing that. I like the land speeder chase scene. It reminded me of something from the prequels. With Zam Wessel and like Obi-Wan and
Mm,
Anakin when they're on that
okay.
speed racer chase as well. So
Mm,
I don't know. It was kind of fun to watch that. Um, and we don't see a lot of ground action on Star Wars. It's always spaceships
yeah,
fighting. So
that's
it
true.
was refreshing to see something that was set on the ground. And it was also thrilling. I really enjoyed it. Um,
Yeah,
so we get a call back to Han's lucky dice that we've seen in A New Hope,
yeah.
obviously in the Millennium Falcon. And that was cool to bring that back, because that's kind of like Han's thing. Um, and another thing I picked up on was that Qi'ra makes a reference to the Crimson Dawn, which obviously comes in later in the film, but she also makes a reference to the Hutt cartel. So obviously that's
Ah,
Jabba the Hutt and all of his misfits on Tatooine and Jabba's palace.
mm,
Palace. Um, but that's all my positives for the start, and then we we get into Han Solo joining the Empire.
yes.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah. Well, I will say first, I actually really like the scene where Han and Kira sort of they're trying to escape, and then Han gets like stuck on one side of the door, and Kira's on the other side, and
Mm-hmm.
Han can't. We've seen that a lot in movies, but I feel like the acting in that scene was really good by Han and
That was
by
pretty emotional,
Kira.
yeah.
Yeah, so no, I enjoyed that scene, and I also appreciated the fact that Han Solo is just a fantastic pilot from the very start.
Mm.
Like they don't make him like an amateur, and
Yeah.
then like the movie is him like becoming a fantastic pilot. He just always is a
Ray
fantastic
Skywalker.
pilot. Yes, but in this instance, Han Solo is such a legendary character, and
Yeah.
his one role in the original trilogy
Mm.
is to be a fantastic pilot. And it's okay to be good, really good at one thing, But if you're good at everything, then there are character issues.
Mm.
And we saw that with Ray Palpatine.
Right.
So let's go to the part where he joins the Empire. Would you like to start us off?
Yeah, okay. Let me just find my note. Okay.
I have a real issue with this.
Yeah, I had a real issue with this as well. The fact that he got his name from an Imperial Guard, it's like they just on the name of Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't do that to a character that's been in film for 40 years, I want to say. Over 40 years. 43
Mm,
years, I think. You can't do that and then give him his name like that. That's just so bad, and it's just so disrespectful um, to Harrison Ford's character and George Lucas's character. And I can see how this film was trying to be comedically funny, right? And a lot of the times they really hit the nail on the head with that.
mm,
And that's one thing I do like about this film is how they did it good, unlike The Last Jedi, how it was meant to be a serious film and they made it funny for no apparent reason. This
yeah.
film fit that tone and they did it well, but you can't just add this sort of comedic tone to scenes like this and just absolutely destroy the name of Han Solo like that. That is just so bad.
Yeah, literally the name of Han, like literally disgracing the name of Han Solo.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's not even to get like a laugh though. I feel like it's like, the makers of this movie trying to, be like, oh, look how
Solo.
clever this was. Look how creative we were in, oh, how did Han become Solo? Solo isn't really a last name, is it?
Mm,
So how did he get that? Oh, look at our, fancy and creative and magical way of him getting his name is just some random dude is like, who are you with?
mm.
Like, who's your tribe? He's like, I work alone. And he's like, Solo. No, so you're telling me, right, that everybody else who joined the Empire, who wasn't a part of a tribe, is called Solo? Like what?
It's pretty
You're telling
stupid
me
when you think about it.
like the precedent for this is just mind blowing. Like, so how many loners are just going to rock up and join the Empire who aren't a part of a tribe? Like Mando, sure, he's a part of the Mandalorian tribe, but he hasn't got any of those anymore. So is he Mandalorian Solo? Like, what? It's just disgraceful. It's really the one thing that I really really hate about this movie.
And why wasn't
But
he given a last name? Like,
well, why don't you just make him a Han? Why don't you just make Solo his last name? Like,
that would have been so much
and
better. Like,
well, obviously we have Ben Solo in the sequel, so his son's obviously like, hey, I like the fact that you're alone, so I'm going to take that name and use it for me. Like,
yeah.
he doesn't. He's not Ben Skywalker, is he? He's Ben Solo.
Mm.
It's just beyond me. Like, and I think they were being creative and thinking that was a good way to do it,
Mm-hmm.
but no.
Mm.
So yeah, so lots of other people are going to be called Solo in the Star Wars universe because they're not a part of a tribe.
It's like the Smith
Ridiculous.
last name.
Yeah, and then Han Solo actually takes that on. He's like, "Oh, thank you, Imperial Guard that I have not met before this day. I'm going to take that as my last name for the rest of my goddamn
It's
life."
kind of a
Like,
cool
what?
last name, though.
It is cool,
Mm.
but just make it his real name. Like, it's like Harvey Specter. Like, Specter's a awesome last name,
Yeah. I don't think
but
I
like,
hate it as much as you, but I can see why people hate it.
it just doesn't work for
Yeah.
me. It just does not work for me. And when you mess with something so fundamental like the name of the goddamn it's like Ray Skywalker. It's like, no,
You don't
don't.
do that. You don't do that.
You don't do this. You don't do this. You don't do this.
I like the fact that he joined the Empire, though.
Yeah, that is sick.
Yeah.
That is really cool, and I love that battle scene. It looks like a war. Like, it looks like an actual war.
That's what I'm saying. I like that this film delivers on stuff that isn't lightsabers. This combat here, this blaster combat is just
incredible.
so cool to look at.
Yeah.
And I know before I said I didn't really see any music that came to mind, but I think we get a rendition of John Williams' Imperial March here, and
Oh yeah.
oh my god, is that cool! So if you didn't have two to put in the playlist, I'll try to
No, I'll
track that
find that
one
one.
down. Yeah.
Yeah, no, awesome. I just loved how realistic that looked like.
Mm.
It just looked straight out of a war
I said it
movie.
looked like
And
World War II. Mm.
yeah, and they have trenches and
Yeah.
there's mud everywhere and it's disgusting and people are dying. Like it's really like the horrors of, because we never see that. It's all like, in Rogue One, sure, like so many people die in that movie and it's so tragic. But like they're on a nice tropical island and it's
Yeah.
in the daytime and this is like dark and there's smoke everywhere and there's bombs going off and
Mm.
like it's just so awesome. And Han Solo's like in there. Like
Mm.
but yeah, he's probably one of the few people in the galaxy to join the Empire and the Rebellion. Probably. But
You gotta be joking, right?
well, yes, a lot of, apart from
Finn.
Iden Versio.
Come
Yes.
on,
No,
man.
no, Finn
That's been done so many
Finn
times.
Finn's not, he joins the Resistance. He's part of the
Oh,
First
come on,
Order,
it's the
isn't
same thing.
he? No, I think it's cool that Han Solo was in the Empire though,
It's
so
just
that's
cool
cool.
because you didn't expect his character to do it, right? He seems like,
Mm,
I don't know, just like the middleman, but he joins the Empire and just came out of nowhere. But I kind
yeah,
of liked it, to be honest.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not exactly loyal to the Empire. He's sort of just like doing it to run away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, he's like trying to look for a way to get out as soon as he gets in there.
Mm.
So he's lucky that he finds Tobias Beckett, who comes in and you know, he sort of tries to join Tobias's crew. And then, what did you think of Chewie's introduction in this film?
Um, I do like that we got a Chewbacca origin in this film, to be honest. And I like when they
Mm.
were like, feed him to the beast, called
Yeah, the
Chewbacca a
Beast.
beast. Um, but one thing I'm kind of sad about is the fact that we didn't get to see or learn how Han learnt how to speak Wookiee, because I kind of just assumed from the original trilogy, right, that Chewbacca um,
Mm.
taught him how to speak it because Han hang around him so much, and then it's like they kind of do it again, like with the Solo name. They just take
Yeah.
something that's been established and they just take it another direction. It's not as bad as the Solo name, but I like to think that Han kind of just picked it up from Chewbacca, but apparently he learnt Wookiee somewhere.
Yeah, no, interesting. And I really liked how their relationship sort of worked throughout the rest of the film. I feel
Yeah.
like it was good, good sort of tie-in. And I really loved the fact that we were explained what happened to the Wookiees after the Battle of Kashyyyk, because
Hmm.
that's where we see them last,
Yeah.
and that's actually where we see Chewbacca last. So we see Chewbacca in Revenge of the Sith, as we noted when we did a podcast on that.
Mm.
But yeah, so it's cool to sort of track the Wookiees and Chewbacca's progress, and it's not a very nice story. Obviously, they're enslaved by the Empire,
Oh, that fits in
and
so well, doesn't it?
yeah.
Chewbacca would have gotten captured by the Empire, and
Hmm.
then, oh wow, I never thought about that.
Yeah, well, they explain it because then Chewbacca sees some fellow Wookiees
Mm.
being enslaved by the Empire, and he goes to liberate them later on in the film, which is really really nice.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it's cool to sort of have even more of an origin story of where Chewbacca came from as well,
Mm.
and tying into the prequels is always a nice thing. We appreciate that because the prequels don't get enough love.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no. So I really liked Chewbacca in this
I like
film.
the origin stories in this film in general, to be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's good. So I've written here. I love how Woody Harrelson's character does the twirly gun thing, and then Han immediately says, "Show me how
Show
to
me how
do
to do
that."
that. Yeah.
He Woody Harrelson, like, he does the gun thing, and Han just immediately is like, "Show me how to do that."
Yeah.
Like, it's not even, he doesn't even put emotional like any emotion in it. It's just like, I need to know how to do that. So I like that. It's a very Han thing to do. Obviously, he didn't learn because whatever. And Han's just using his old basic stance to shoot his gun, and
Yeah. Yeah.
but no, it's cool. I
I
love
picked
that.
up on this one thing. So when the crew picked up Han and Chewie, right? And then later on we see Han and Chewie go down onto the lower balcony and then they're
Mm,
speaking. And then Han makes this line, he was like, they only took you because of me. But the scene right before it, the crew's like speaking, and then they're all like, "Oh, we could use a Wookiee. Wookiees are really helpful." And then you've never had a better sleep in a Wookiee's lap before. And
yeah,
then
yeah.
it's kind of funny how Han thinks he was the one as to why they got picked up, but it was really Chewbacca.
Yeah, there's such a Han Solo thing as well. But I
Yeah.
mean, they really do nail the character.
Mm.
They might not nail the name, but they really nail like the essence and the character and Alden Ehrenreich nails the mannerisms
Yeah.
of Han Solo really well. So it's actually like a really good origin story for Han Solo. Not the best plot, but
Mm.
it's definitely believable that this is a younger version of the man that we meet in A New Hope,
Yeah.
who doesn't really trust anyone, and hokey religions are not as good as a blaster at your side, kid, or something of the sort.
See, I didn't mind the story in this one, right? And then I think that's because I'm comparing it to, um, the other work from Disney,
Yeah,
that they've done
comparing it
on
to
original films,
trash.
because you know, the Force Awakens is essentially a just rehashed A New Hope, right? It's just the exact same thing, just with different
Mm.
characters. I'm not sure if you've noticed that.
Yes, no,
Um,
yeah,
and then The Last Jedi, absolutely trash. It's just like a ship chasing a ship, absolute rubbish. And then The Rise of Skywalker, it's like, where were they even going with that? So in comparison, I actually like the story in this film, to be honest.
yeah. I think the plot's better than the rest of what we've gotten from Disney Star Wars for
Mm.
sure. But I really wanted to be careful because we have gotten so much trash from Disney. We sort of, when we see something that's half good, we think, oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And there's this false notion that I've spoken about before about Star Wars characters. I mean, Star Wars fans being very hard to please.
Mm.
And it's simply not the case. We're very easy to please. Make a half good movie, and we'll like cherish it
We'll be
forever.
happy
Like, and
about
it'll
it. Yeah.
it'll make $1 billion, and there'll be toys everywhere. But make a bad movie, and we're not so
They
pleased.
still haven't made a good, like a really great film, Disney Star
I,
Wars.
well, I think Rogue One comes close, but maybe that's it.
But I want a
Rogue One's
new,
next.
refreshing story from Disney Star Wars.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. But Rogue One, that'll be later. Podcast coming on that one
I'm
relatively
excited
soon.
for
That's
that one.
next. That's next. So yeah, so obviously we're going through the timeline
Can I
of
just add here? We got a
mhm.
mention from the Zan sisters in Bosk from
Really,
yeah, so we get a reference from Bosk. I'm not sure who
that's
the
cool.
Zan sisters are, but obviously Bosk is the bounty hunter that shows up in, I want to say, The
Mm.
Empire Strikes Back, and we also see him a bit in the Clone Wars and Rebels as well.
Yes, yeah, I think he's in Empire. Yeah, well, that's cool. Haven't seen Bosk like in anything else apart from the Clone Wars,
Hmm.
so that's really cool. Um, But yeah, I what did you think of the train scene? So the train fight on a train that is sometimes horizontal and
Mhm.
sometimes vertical, and moving about. Not entirely sure why it does that, but whatever. Star Wars,
Yeah, Star Wars. Your explanation for it is Star Wars. No,
wacky things happen.
I actually really like this sequence. And like all of the other action scenes in the film, they're really thrilling to watch and they're exciting.
Mm,
Um, and one funny thing that I did pick up on this is in the trailer, right? Right at the end, you know how most trailers have something to look forward to, like we see in the Avengers Infinity War trailer, we see the Guardians of the
yeah,
Galaxy, right? And then some of the trailers also have uh, cliffhangers. And
yep.
one of the solo trailers actually had a cliffhanger, right? And so you know the scene where Chewbacca's like hanging off the edge, and then Han's trying to pull him back in, and then Chewie looks
Oh
over and
yeah,
there's a rock.
yeah.
That was the cliffhanger for this movie.
Oh
Keep in
god.
mind, Chewbacca is in the original trilogy.
He's in literally every single Star Wars
Exactly.
movie that's set after this.
So that trailer tried to fool the Star Wars universe and the Star Wars audience that Chewbacca was gonna die, even
Yeah.
though we clearly know that this is set prior to A New Hope, and he's alive in A New Hope. So whoever made that decision, man, they need
The
to
marketing
fire
team.
him because that is terrible.
The marketing team should be ashamed of
That is
themselves.
so bad. Who made that decision?
No, that's funny. But yeah, I think you brought up earlier about the fact that there are too many, well, not too many deaths, but the deaths in this movie are just like
They're
they're
pointless. Hmm.
yes, yeah, they're very shallow, and and yeah, we see. So there's a crew. Tobias's crew is three. So there's three including Tobias. It's Tobias, his wife, and
Al and
this
Rio.
alien.
Yep.
Yeah, and so then they take Han and Chewie on, so that brings them to a total of five,
Hmm.
right? And then within like 5 minutes of this heist that they're doing, they lose two crew
Yeah.
members. So if it was just Woody Harrelson, his crew, it would be just him left. Like
Yeah.
they've gone from three to one in like 20 minutes.
Mm.
And like we can assume that these people are relatively competent at what they do.
They've probably done this scheme a lot of times, right?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
kind of unbelievable that two of them
That
die
yes.
as two of them come on. Like
Yeah.
it's
It's
just
ridiculous.
yeah.
Uh but yeah, so that was a big negative for me.
Mm.
Um and especially Tobias's his wife's death was really not good. Probably the worst one in the entire
That
film.
was pretty bad. I'm not gonna
And
lie.
she's sort of like excited to die for some reason.
Yeah,
Um
she was a
really
character, man.
really weird.
Yeah.
Really weird. And could have been great as well because she's the wife of, a main character in this film.
Mm.
So, you know, that's a way to pull on the heartstrings of the audience, but
Yeah.
it's just terrible. Like
Yeah.
it's not good. Um, but yeah, anything else you wanted to say on that train scene? I thought it was pretty cool, but yeah, there were
Yeah.
some big negatives in.
It's not really the train scene, but it's running at the same time. So we get the introduction
Mm,
of this I guess this bandit sort of pirates, marauders crew
mm,
called Infest Nest, right? And
yeah,
at first it seems like a really cool gang of pirates, right? Um kind of like Hondo's gang from the Clone Wars. But later on we kind of find out who they really are, and it's kind of a bummer.
yeah.
Like
It's so bad.
I know, like it's kind of boring what they did with it. Like they just made them the start of the rebellion, kind of. I think they're the start of the rebellion. I think that's what it was. And
Yeah,
God, that's just boring, man. They could have made it so cool and so interesting, but it's one thing that
yeah.
Disney Star Wars always does. They set up these really cool characters like Captain Phasma and Snoke and Infus Nest. Really cool
Kylo Ren,
ideas. Kylo Ren. And then they just make them
Finn,
boring and generic characters. Like, why do they do
yes.
it?
And it's the thing with the masks again as well. The um the masked character in this film looks
Mm,
awesome. Looks menacing.
yeah.
Looks cool.
Looks
Just
mysterious, right?
yes,
And when
and the
she
voice
takes
is
it
great.
off, we lose the
And
element.
she's yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what happened in The Last Jedi when Kylo Ren's like, "Oh, I don't need my mask anymore. Off that away, no, throw that away."
Mm.
Like it's just why would you give them a mask if they're going to take it off? And they milk it in this film as like a subversion of expectations. The mask comes off and we're supposed to be like, "Oh my gosh, it's a child. How that is just so riveting. I feel the emotions right now." But it just
No.
doesn't work. No, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's like they're setting that up to happen.
Mm.
So
Just wanted to add one more thing and then we'll move on.
okay, yeah, go for it.
Rightio. So one more thing that kind of came out with the deaths in this film, right? The deaths are
Mm,
absolutely horrible. Like they didn't do it right. But one thing that did come out of it was that it established this sort of undertone that this film had serious consequences, right? And that's the
mm.
other thing that they do with Rogue One. Obviously, everyone in that film dies at the end. Sorry, spoiler alert. It's a bit late to say it, but um, yeah. So it established that this film has serious consequences, and I do like that because
Iron Man dies, people.
oh, no, because a lot of the films that we get nowadays, right? It, they feel too safe. And it was good that
Mm,
this film established these characters and was not afraid to kill them off within the first
yeah.
20 minutes. Like, they probably could
Mm,
have moved it a bit to the end, but yeah, it's the same sort of thing. Anyway,
yeah,
there was this
I
other thing
agree.
I picked up on as well is when we have that massive coaxium explosion. That was
Mm,
so cool. And I remember
yeah.
watching a video, I think it was from Insider. It might have been someone else, but I watched a video on YouTube and I found out how they made it. Do you want to take a guess as to how they made it?
No, I
No
have
idea.
absolutely no idea.
Okay, guess whether it's practical or CGI.
Oh, it's got to be practical. It's got to be
Yeah,
practical.
it's practical. So what they did
Yeah.
is I think they got like a really high FPS camera, and they had
Mm.
a water balloon, and they placed it
Oh,
underwater, and then they pierced the water balloon, and then it kind of looked like this ripple wave effect thing, and it looks
yeah.
so cool. And I remember
Oh,
watching
that's
that, I was like,
awesome.
oh, that is so cool.
It sounds really good too. It sounds like the thermal imploders, I think they're called, or
Hmm.
in Attack of the Clones is what Boba Fett
Oh
shoots,
yeah.
and he shoots it, and then it goes like
Mm.
boom, and then there's like silence before, so yeah, they're in Battlefront 2, and it sounds really cool because when they come in, there's always like dead silence for a second, and you're like, oh dear, here we go,
What
and it's like a massive explosion.
While you're talking about Battlefront 2, it was really cool to see all these places again.
Yes,
Like, how
yeah,
cool was it seeing, like, Kessel and seeing,
yeah.
Beowulf
I
and
had no idea
Dagor
that
and
was a solo map. I
oh,
had
you
no
had
idea
no
that was a
idea?
solo map.
Oh,
No.
okay. Yeah, it was pretty cool seeing them again, and I think there was one
Mm.
more, what was the other one that we get in Solo? Damn, that's gonna annoy me. You know that? Oh yeah, okay. So we get a mention of Felucia as well, which is another
Mm.
map on Battlefront 2. But we
Oh,
also
yeah.
see one more, and it's not coming to mind now. But we get a mention of Felucia, and we see Castle. So it's kind of just cool
Okay.
seeing them when you've played it in Battlefront 2.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. No, it was really cool. What did you think? So after that train scene, I'm pretty sure we go to our heroes, our sort of squad goes to Dryden Voss's castle. Well, I say castle, it's just a big ship, isn't it?
Hmm.
Um, but I like the design of the ship.
It's different.
But but they sort of walk in on a party,
Yeah.
and there is like I don't know what it is, but there's something that's singing in a bottle of liquid,
Yeah.
and I have absolutely no idea what it is.
See,
Like there are wacky things in Star Wars,
that's
but
the
this is
cool thing
something.
about this film is it
It's so cool.
it pays respect to the original Star Wars, and I also said it with Sabak. It also feels like classic Star Wars, but bringing in all
Mm,
these alien-looking characters—that's what Star Wars is. It's all of these weird and wacky characters that we've never seen before, and having stuff like
mm.
that. It sounds stupid, but it just makes the film as well.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah,
I was like, "What on earth is that?"
yeah,
And that's what you're thinking during the cantina scenes in the original trilogy
yeah,
too.
yeah.
And with Jabba's palace, you're like, "Bruh, these some weird aliens."
Mm,
But that's what Star Wars is all about. So that was really cool because I saw that and I was like, "What on earth?"
mm,
But yeah, to reiterate, Paul Bettany is a Star Wars villain. It's just a no from me.
yeah.
It's not really a thing, but I appreciate that Chewbacca's doing shots.
Wait,
That
what?
was pretty cool. I don't
Oh
know if
wait,
you
no, it
saw that.
was too. Yeah, I did see that. Yeah,
Yeah, no, so that was funny.
that is funny.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, to go back to Paul Bettany, it seems to be his only personality trait is that I have scratches on my face, so that means I'm the bad guy.
Mm. My
So
eyes are
yeah,
somewhat red. I'm the bad guy now.
yes, and look at me, I just killed some guy that you don't care about. I'm a bad guy. Um,
Uh,
I just killed a guy and it didn't affect me. I'm the bad guy.
it's kind of like I want to say it's like Blade Runner 2049 when we walk in on Jared Leto killing someone.
Yeah,
Did
but
that happen
that's
in
done
the
with
film?
so much more like
Yeah,
emotion and
in
yeah,
this film it just
it's
feels
like
stupid, right?
yeah, it's like he in Paul Bettany's like he kills his person and then he's like, all right, I'm with the
Yeah.
party, and it's like what? Whereas David Wallace is like an actual psychopath, like oh that scene in Blade Runner is so haunting. Whereas this is just like a throwaway, like oh I just killed that guy off to the party then.
Yeah.
It's like it's a big tonal difference, and it's why it doesn't work.
Mm.
It's the fact that they try and make light of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Make it funny when it.
yeah. But anything else you wanted to add from that scene? Otherwise, we'll jump to Lando.
I feel like we really didn't touch on Qi'ra coming back as someone hired by
Hmm.
Crimson Dawn, and I didn't
Yeah.
write
Okay.
anything down about that because I honestly
Hmm.
didn't really care about it. But did you have anything on that? Did you want to add anything about that?
No, but I didn't write anything down either. But it seemed a bit like, of course, she's going to come back in
Yeah.
the story some way. But I feel like she's obviously been forced to join this sort of like evil criminal
Syndicate.
cult. Yeah.
Mm.
And we don't really get any backstory as to how she was forced into doing that or why, because in the end we see that she wants to join
Yeah,
Crimson Dawn, and that's really not good for me. I didn't really feel like that was in line with her character.
yeah,
I feel
yeah,
like it would have been more in line with her character to say, F you to Darth Maul, I'm going to
yeah.
go off with Han Solo. Like that would just make
Mm.
sense. But obviously we have to get rid of the love interest because Han Solo has to show up single in New Hope.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, I I acknowledge the fact that she had to come back into the story, and I think it was cool that they did it that way, but it didn't really work towards the end for me.
yeah. That's the thing with the ending. There was so many twists, and it got really confusing. And I feel like it just would have been better if Qi'ra went with Han Solo, and then they just had this gray period in between Solo and A New Hope, and it
Mm,
was like, oh, what happened to Qi'ra? Did she die? Did they just break up? Like
yeah.
we don't know. I feel like that would have been better.
Yeah, for sure. Because then it even, there was rumors about a Solo 2, but considering this movie didn't make money and that's what Disney cares about, I think it's unlikely. But it definitely could have been cool to explore what happened there, because it's sort of like the concept of a ticking time bomb. Like, we know that, you know, they're not going to live happily ever after. We know something's going to have to go wrong here.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like there is more to tell in this story with Qi'ra going off to be with Darth Maul,
Well,
essentially.
I'm pretty sure they're making a TV show, aren't they?
There's rumors of a Lando TV show, I think, but yeah, who knows?
Mm.
It'll all be Disney Plus. But yeah, if so, we won't get that for another like 3 years
Oh, it's gonna be a
probably.
while, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so let's go to Lando now. Actually,
Yes.
so his introduction's pretty sick.
Yeah, I actually liked the scenery that it was set in, and once again it feels like classic Star Wars. You know, they're playing Sabak, which interestingly enough we actually see in the Mandalorian season 2 episode 2. We'll
Oh.
talk about that, but yeah. So it's I think we also saw it in Rebels as well. So it's a Star Wars game that's quite frequently played.
Hmm.
But no, this is what I like about Star Wars, just like the small stuff, you know, the humor between Lando and Han also really works for me
Yes,
as
very
well.
good.
And like I
Mm,
said before, it feels like Harrison Ford and Billy D. Williams, just younger versions of them. And I think both
yeah,
of those characters just nailed their mannerisms and did it perfectly. I wouldn't have changed anything.
yeah. No, I definitely got Casino Royale
Yeah,
vibes
yeah.
from that. Yeah, especially when Han loses. That was fantastic.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, I love when Lando refers to Han as hand,
And yeah,
and oh, I think there's something else that he does that like, oh Han Solo says Sabak instead of Sabak,
Sabak.
and
Yeah.
Lando like Lando like corrects him, and but no, I think there's really great chemistry there,
Yeah.
and
No,
we see that at the
really.
end where he's like, "I hate you," and he's like, "Yeah, I know."
Yeah, yeah. It's good that it
Yeah,
was a happy ending between them, and no,
yeah,
I
sort
really
of,
enjoyed
yeah,
their performances. Yeah,
and it does make sense if they didn't see each other ever again. Like the next time they saw them was Empire Strikes Back.
Cloud
Like
City,
that,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
that does work.
yeah,
That does work. But I imagine they were intending for them to cross paths again.
yeah.
Um,
And at the end,
but
we also get that, you know, they're fighting over who owns the Falcon, and it feels
mm,
like it's straight out of The Empire Strikes Back. I really think they did that
yeah,
well. Yeah.
yeah, it's fantastic. Probably one of the more controversial parts of the movie. What did you think of the female feminist
Oh
robot?
my god, bro! Star Wars does this every single time, right? If there is
Mm,
a droid in the film, it has to be a comedic relief
yes, yeah,
every
yeah, and
single time.
sarcastic. Yeah,
Why do they do it?
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's because humans aren't funny. That's why.
But neither are droids.
Yeah, no, I agree. That was the same with Rogue One. But I think K2SO is a cooler character, and in the same exact scenario, K2SO dies. A spoiler, and then L3 in this film dies. It's just like just didn't work again. But I feel like it L3 can be quite funny, but yeah, as a character, probably not the best.
Definitely fell short at times.
Yeah. So but she was okay. I don't like the fact that they're going down this route of making Lando a pansexual or something like that.
Hold up.
Yeah. So apparently that means like he was, attracted to the droid. So that makes him not of a straight sexual orientation, which to me is just bizarre. And it's like the Harry Potter thing with changing Dumbledore. Um, is it Dumbledore?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I might have said like a Lord of the Rings name. I was like, oh,
No,
crap.
you're sweet.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, changing his sexual, like making him gay, even though it doesn't make anything, it doesn't, bring anything to the plot of the film at all. It's like just leave it
Yeah.
alone. Like, but yeah, there obviously is a bit of a connection between Lando and L3, and I think that's nice. But there's a bit where Qi'ra says, "How does that work?" And L3's like, "It does."
Mm,
And it's like they're obviously referring to things that children would not pick up on in that instance,
yeah.
and that's probably a bit too weird for me, personally, as a Star
that's,
Wars fan
that's
anyway.
fairly weird, yeah.
Yes,
I thought it was just a joke, as L3 was just uh, kind of establishing that Lando
mm,
obviously liked her as to Anakin liked C3PO or R2D2. But if they were trying to take it that route, there's some questions to be asked there.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to jump through some things because we're sort of running out of time. But what did you think of the fact that um, the Falcon, the Millennium Falcon. What did you think of that design and the
Oh,
fact that it's like pristine white on the inside, which means by the time it gets to A New Hope, it gets extremely dirty. Like, yeah, it's yeah.
I
What did
wrote
you think?
two words, right? It looks sick and clean. I absolutely
Yeah.
love the design of the Kessel Run Millennium Falcon. I mean,
Okay.
you
Nice.
didn't
Okay.
like it?
No, I do like
You liked
the
it?
outside design.
You don't like the
Um,
inside design.
yeah, for me, it's like unrealistic because this movie's supposed to be set like what, maybe like 10 or so years before New Hope.
Hmm.
Um, and the fact that thinking that the Falcon's going to get that dirty in
Yeah,
10
well,
years.
just think about it. I mean, towards the
But
end of
like
the
it,
film, we see the Millennium Falcon that we see in A New Hope, though. It's all
yeah,
trashed up
as in the,
and it's lost.
yeah, on the outside,
Yeah, on the
not on the inside.
but on the
It was
inside,
supposed to be,
we saw explosions and stuff happening.
yeah, true. So it could have been like, some damage from, things. And obviously Han and Chewie go on various adventures before A New Hope.
Yeah,
So that's fine. But for me, it just makes Han Solo look like a dirty person. Like, he just needs to like give his Millennium Falcon a bit more love, and obviously he does love it very
yeah.
much. What did you think of the fact that Han's dad actually used to build Millennium Falcons?
Wait, really?
Yeah, so he says that.
Oh, I didn't
Han
pick up on
Solo
that.
says, "My dad used to build these things,"
Oh,
which is pretty nice. It gives a bit of backstory as to why Han is so attached to the Millennium Falcon.
yeah. No, I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
One thing I did pick up on though is right. So when we see Beckett and Lando talking about what deal to take, right? We
Mm.
see Beckett keeps altering the deal on Lando, right?
Yeah.
And we see this similarly when Vader is altering the deal on Lando in Cloud City. And I
Mm.
found that was kind of funny, and I don't know whether that was an actual reference to the Empire Strikes Back, but if it was,
Yeah.
that is really cool. I like that they did that.
Yeah, no, that was cool. I like that. There were definitely like, quite a few references to the better movies. So that's
I've got a
cool.
few here, so I might just bang them out, and then
Yeah, bang them out.
we'll move on. Yeah. So we also see Beckett is wearing a skiff guard uniform, like Lando was in Return of the Jedi, and like you just mentioned, it kind of makes a callback to that, and it fits really well because you can see that the Millennium Falcon actually has that costume
Mm.
on it's on board, I guess. So that was kind of cool. And then we get the reference to the Kessel Run, which is obviously referenced back in A New Hope when Han makes the line, "I made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs." And we also get a spin on the iconic "I got a really bad feeling about this" line, which I think appears
Yeah,
in every Star Wars film. Correct me if I'm
yeah.
wrong.
I think that's right.
In
Yeah,
this film, we get "I got a really good feeling about this," so it
yeah.
was good that they kind of switched it up and changed that.
Mm.
But that's all that I really found.
Yeah, no, that's cool. When Han was, flying the Millennium Falcon, that was just fantastic.
Oh, it felt so good when Chewie took the seat and then Han was in the seat. That's what I
Yeah,
wanted from
yeah,
this film, and it's good that
yeah.
they did that because if they didn't do that, oh man, I would have had something to say about that.
No, it is a fantastic moment, and I just want to go back for a second because when um, L3 sort of starts that that riot, that prison break,
Hmm.
and that leads to a big action scene. When Lando goes to save L3, it's actually a really awesome scene.
Yeah,
Like Lando does a awesome knee slide
yeah.
while he's running after her, and it was just such an awesome moment to see a character that we love so much in Star Wars just do his thing and be really good at it and take down some bad guys and do a sick knee slide and try to save the droid. It
Mm.
was really cool. Obviously, we got Han there doing the,
The iconic
imitating. Yeah.
blaster stance. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So, yeah, just wanted to go back to touching that because I thought that was a really cool scene. Um, but yeah, so then if we want to jump to when sort of towards the very end, which is when the big bad masked character shows up, um, and then we get the reveal that she's a young girl,
Mm.
and so I think we've already explained it before, but I just want to read what I wrote. You can probably tell whether this is sarcastic or not. I'll try to read it in an emotionless voice. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, the big bad masked dude is a young girl. Wow, that just makes me feel so many emotions. Wow, such a great twist. Wow, really great writing. Wow, love the
You
trend
sound
of
like
mask
Owen
wearing.
Wilson. Wow.
Love the trend of mask wearing, unintimidating fake villains.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. So, yes, didn't like her character at all.
When
What?
Infant's Nest returned, right? It
Yeah,
felt exciting before she took off her mask. It was like, oh yeah, we
yeah.
get to
Oh, the
see more of
music's
these guys.
fantastic.
The music as well. Oh my god, that music was great. Is that the one you're adding? Wait, no, no.
Yes.
We'll talk about it later on. But
Yeah,
if that's the one you're adding, I'm going to be happy about that because that was
yeah.
actually really good.
But yeah, so I just really didn't like that reveal. And also the fact that they say, oh, we're not marauders, we're allies. They're trying to recruit, they're trying to, um, secure an allied partnership, right? But if we can remember, as to maybe an hour previous in this film, these people just killed Tobias's wife and his best friend.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
And now they're like, oh, we're not marauders, we're allies. I'm like, excuse me, you just killed this man's wife and his best
Well,
friend.
they didn't really. It was kind of the Empire, but they kind of
Well,
pushed them to the extent where they were going to die.
okay, that's fair
Yeah,
enough.
because the
Um,
Empire had those droids that were shooting at Val,
you see, I forgot about the
and then
droids.
the one of the stormtroopers hit Rio in the back. Yeah,
Okay, okay. So it's a stormtrooper. It wasn't a
yeah, it wasn't
marauder.
really the Marauders. Yeah,
Okay, all right, that's okay then. I'll let that slide.
yeah.
But yeah, I will say the movie's too long. Do you agree?
Oh, 100%. I mean, they could have shortened
Yeah,
this down to like an hour 40
yeah.
easily.
And I think I've written here we get a double twist. Not good.
Yeah,
And that's not even correct. We actually get three twists in within 20
I think
minutes
it's more than that.
because we get the twist that um, Tobias is the bad guy and he's conned Han Solo,
Hmm.
and then we get the twist that Han Solo actually conned Tobias before Tobias could con Han Solo.
Hmm.
So there's double twist. And then we get the twist of um, oh, Qi'ra's a bad guy. She's going to kill Han. And then the twist of, oh, wait, no, she's just kidding.
Exactly.
She's going to
So it was like
kill
four twists.
Dryden. Yeah. And then we get another one. It's like, oh, plot twist again. Kira's actually a bad person and she's going to be the head of Crimson Dawn or whatever now. Like,
It was
what?
just so confusing at the end there. Like, God.
Yeah, it's like Tobias is good, Tobias is bad, Tobias is back to being
Like,
good.
who's actually
He's
good and
dead.
bad?
Like
I
what?
know Han Solo and Chewie are good, but the other
Mm.
ones, it's like, I don't know whether they're good or bad.
I think it's trying to set up the fact that Han Solo doesn't trust anybody in A New
Yeah,
Hope.
yeah, that's actually
And
kinda smart, yeah.
yeah, and I think it does work to that extent. But as an average viewer experience, it's too confusing.
Mm,
But I really did follow it, and I definitely have to think about, is this explosive, the device that's channeling the whole plot of the movie, is this explosive real or is it fake? Like I really had to think about it.
mhm.
So yeah, definitely could have been done better.
I just wanna
Um,
add before we move on to what you probably have a lot to talk about, um, I wanna add that Warwick Davis actually made a cameo in this film, and if you don't know who Warwick Davis is, he actually played Wicket the Ewok in
ah,
Return of the no, The Empire
yeah,
Strikes
Return of the
was it
Jedi.
Return of the Jedi?
Return of the Jedi to the
He
Ewoks. Yeah.
made he was Wicket the Ewok in Return of the Jedi, so it was kinda cool that they made him come back as one of the Infus Nest members. Thought that was
Oh,
quite fitting,
yes,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, yeah, no, I remember seeing him now.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's cool. No, it's nice to see a few cameos, as long as it's not from, the main dudes, like the directors, like Dave Filoni, for instance. But that's a conversation for our Mando episode.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, thoughts on, I guess the finale of the film and that cameo that we get there.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, you go
Okay,
first.
honestly, I'm gonna be straight up with you. I
Yeah.
thought bringing back Maul into live action was a really good decision, and I know that you have a lot to talk about it, but Darth Maul is one of the best Star Wars characters. And yeah, people can say that Disney is milking him, and they probably are milking him, but why not milk him? Because he's such a good character. And I love that they keep on adding to his storyline. We've figured out that he's got a brother. We figured out that he's part of this crime syndicate called the Crimson Dawn. Like, it's just so cool. I love that they've done that. And obviously, the whole lightsaber thing was terrible. Um, but I do like how they brought him back, and it's the same actor. I just think it was a good decision. I mean, it made sense.
No, I agree, and I think the Clone Wars finale actually came after this. But the Clone Wars finale finishes with Darth Maul going off into the distance to start a crime syndicate. So it makes a lot of sense to have him
Does
in
it?
this
Oh
movie.
my god, I didn't pick up on that.
Um, yeah, because he's talking to like various crime families in the last episode, or the second last one, or something. In those final four episodes, he's sensing the chaos that's about to ensue of Palpatine,
Hmm.
starting the Empire and all the lawlessness that's about to take place,
Hmm.
and Maul goes and takes advantage of that. Um, so so yeah, no, I think it was cool to see him. I feel like the lightsaber thing completely ruins it for me because having a Darth Maul. First off, okay, first things first, right? I would have liked the cameo to have been shorter, and I would have liked him to have said less words. He is voiced by the Clone Wars guy, though. Did you pick up on that?
Yeah, so it's voiced by Ray Park. I'm pretty sure who plays.
No, no, no. It's voiced by Sam Witwer,
Is
who's
it?
the voice actor of the Clone Wars.
So
So it sounds
it's
exactly.
it's interesting because is I'm pretty sure it's played by Ray Park,
It is. Yeah, it
but
is.
it's by a different voice.
Different voice, yes. And this is a problem because if you are giving, the reason why I think this cameo exists is to get fans either in the seat to watch this movie or in a seat to watch a sequel to this movie
Hmm.
because Darth Maul is going to be in it.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with that is one, there's not going to be a sequel to this movie because it didn't make any money. And two, the fact that Darth Maul is voiced by somebody who isn't the person that plays him. Like that, you can't do that. No, you can't.
That's so
Sure,
weird.
you can do it in a hologram for 30 seconds of dialogue, but you can't have an actor miming words, or you
Exactly.
can't have somebody doing a voiceover for a real actor. Like it's fine for animation, of course, but you can't do that for live action. It just doesn't work. You
It's
can't
so
do that.
strange.
So that's a stupid decision. I mean, it's cool to have the Clone Wars voice in,
Yeah.
but I'm sorry, you have to
I mean,
you have to
it kind of worked
cut
out in
that.
the end because obviously we're never going to see him again. So that Disney has it going for them there, but yeah, you don't do that. That's just strange.
Yeah, and then obviously the lightsaber thing is completely ridiculous. He's trying to threaten her, and by doing that, he ignites his lightsaber while he's a hologram. Like, what are you going to do, Maul? Like, it would have been cool maybe if he used the Force, because I know you can use, because I remember in Empire Strikes Back, or maybe it's in New Hope, Vader uses the Force to strangle somebody who he's on the call with, like one of his Empire dudes,
Hmm.
if you remember that. But so maybe Maul could use the Force to crush something, or something, next to Qi'ra or something. Like maybe
Yeah,
there's a glass that he wants to shatter or something to, make her feel like he's actually going to threaten her.
yeah,
But turning on your lightsaber is the equivalent of somebody like, FaceTiming somebody and like holding up a knife and being like, I'm going to stab
yeah,
you, and then like logging off. Like, what? It's just completely
yeah.
ridiculous.
Doesn't make a lot of
But yeah,
sense. Yeah,
so that completely takes me out of the movie because it makes me think, well, they've just done that just to make sure people want to go and see this movie
yeah,
because they don't think that they're going to go see it for the right reasons, which would be to see Han Solo.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I will add, by the end of this movie, I got Star Warsy feelings. Like I got like that Star Wars feeling of being like, damn, it's good to be a Star Wars fan. Like
Hmm.
I enjoyed this movie as a Star Wars fan. Did you?
No, I actually really did enjoy this film, and I
Yeah,
liked it a lot more than the other Disney films. Probably not
yeah,
Rogue One, and I think it's probably about the same level as The Force Awakens for me. Um,
yeah.
but no, I thoroughly enjoyed this film.
Mm.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on the fact that, so we have that young person who's taken off her mask and now she's not an intimidating character at all. She says to Han Solo, do you want to join the rebellion? And Han Solo, of course, denies this, which is perfectly within his character.
Hmm.
And then what comes after that is too on the nose for me. The young person says, maybe someday you'll feel different. And we're supposed to go, wow, great foreshadowing, Disney. Great foreshadowing. Wow, fantastic. Great writing.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too on the nose.
Yeah.
It's too on the nose. There are hints. There are already hints that Han Solo is a good guy in this film.
Yeah.
And you just leave it at that. Like it's believable that Han Solo, his main arc in the original films is that he becomes less selfish and he joins a rebellion and
Yeah. Yeah.
becomes a general and stuff. And that's why The
It
Force Awakens is offensive.
it
But
felt really forced.
yeah, for sure. It's like, oh, maybe someday you'll feel different. And so it's like wink, wink to the
Yeah.
audience, like, haha, get it? Because he becomes a general in the, like, no,
Yeah.
like, we can put two and two together. You don't have to throw it
It's
in our
like
face.
it's like a joke that has to be explained is a bad joke. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's all my thoughts on the film. Have you got anything else to add before we sort of dive
I've got
into
one
music
more
segment?
thing, but it's like a really short thing. I just want to
Okay,
leave this
yeah,
question with you and the audience. So we get a line
yeah,
from Tobias Beckett, and he's like, "Find me on Tatooine. Um, I'm doing a job with a big shot gangster.
yes,
Something, something, something." So,
yeah, yeah.
do you have any ideas as to who that is?
Jabba the
Jabba
Hutt.
the Hutt. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Jabba the Hutt. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. I really like that. Because obviously then that ties into how Han Solo gets a bounty on his
Yeah.
head in A New Hope, and why he needs to pay that off.
Mm,
Which is why he helps Luke and Princess Leia in the first place, I think.
mm.
Um, but yes, no, I enjoyed that. It
Yeah.
was a nice hint, wasn't it?
Yeah. So let's move on to
More of a
the music section.
All right, so music segment, we have a playlist called the Rewatch playlist. It's on Spotify. It has a few songs of all of the movies that we review. And so this week, as I've said, like the music wasn't fantastic. I feel like sometimes it didn't really fit in
Mm,
with what was actually going on. But one song
hmm.
that really does is the Savarine Standoff song, which obviously plays when those masked people show up.
Hmm.
The what is it? The
In Fifth
Pirate's
Nest.
Nest or something. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, so that one's going into the rewatch playlist. You said you wanted to find another one.
Yeah, I
Um,
can't remember what it is. I'll have to find it, but we'll
Yeah, we'll
chuck
chuck
it in
that
the
in.
playlist.
Yeah, so if the viewers want to have a listen to that, there's a link in the YouTube description. It's just a Spotify playlist of some songs that we've encountered along our journey through various
Yeah.
films. So yeah, so final thoughts. Do you think? I think this is probably the most important thing is to answer is: do you think this film deserves a rewatch by an average like Star Wars fan?
Oh yeah. I reckon this is a solid film, and I'd definitely recommend it.
Yeah, no, I agree. It definitely deserves a rewatch. I This film deserves a second chance. Solo
100%. Look,
deserves a
you
second
gave it a second
chance.
chance, and you like it more. So
Yeah,
if that's one
exactly.
thing to
So
take from this episode, watch it again.
yeah, it'll improve your life as a Star Wars fan because I felt like this was down there with The Last Jedi
Mm.
and Rise of Skywalker, but it is far better than
Yeah.
those films.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so let's go to some final thoughts then, and you can provide us with your tier ranking after that.
Yeah. So overall, I actually really enjoyed this film, and I've said that before. Like I said, I've watched it 3 or 4 times, and I still enjoy it every time. Um, so I probably like it as much as The Force Awakens, and I definitely like it better than the other two terrible movies that Disney's produced.
Yep.
I think Rogue One's probably the best they've done, and then it's Force Awakens, Solo, and then the other two. Um, I like how Han, Lando, and Chewie all got origin stories, and they were interesting origin stories. They felt fitting. And I also feel that the story we followed in this film had some content to it. It was interesting. It probably wasn't done the best they could have done, but it was refreshing to see. It was cool to see Maul's return, and the music is what you would expect from Star Wars. I mean, you can't go wrong with Star Wars music. The movie probably could have done better with the death scenes. Like I said, they just all felt really insignificant, and they didn't really mean anything to me. Infus Nest, like I said, was kind of a letdown. Had really good opportunity there. Again, it's just what Disney does with their characters. Um, and then they end up just being like a rehashed rebellion, like the start of the rebellion.
Mm.
So yeah, it's a great film. I'll definitely recommend it for anyone that hasn't seen it, or if you didn't like it the last time, give it a rewatch, give it another chance. But in terms of like a rewatch rating, I'd probably give it around about like a B rating.
Yeah, no, interesting. No, I agree with all of your points there. I think as a Star Wars fan, obviously we want all of the movies to be good and we want to enjoy all the movies. So this has improved my life as a Star Wars fan because now I know that Solo isn't as bad as some of the others.
Yeah.
And there is even, I'd probably say, a possibility that I could watch this again in the future, maybe.
Hmm.
But I'm more likely to watch some of the other Star Wars movies over this. But I recognize the fact that this movie is actually pretty good,
Yeah.
and it makes some very bad mistakes, and those mistakes are they definitely weigh the movie down as a Star Wars fan because some of those mistakes are crucial to the lore of Star Wars.
Hmm.
And but I also think it does a lot of things right. However, as a overall, I think it probably deserves a B minus. I'm going to be a bit more tough on it than
That's
you,
so good.
but that's. I think it just gets dragged down by the fact that it's a good standalone story, but in saying that, as it ties in with the rest of Star Wars, it could have been so much better. Plot's a bit confusing and
Yeah.
boring at some stages. Um, Emilia Clarke, I didn't really like her performance. Paul Bettany was absolutely rubbish. I mean, it's not his fault; it's the
Yeah.
writing.
Yeah.
But I really didn't like that villain. Too many plot twists, I'd say.
Oh yeah.
But overall, I think it does give a really good origin story to one of the best characters in Star
Yeah.
Wars. Um, but but yeah, I think Han Solo is one of the best parts of the original trilogy. So this was always a hard task.
Mm.
And I mean, Alden Ehrenreich, credit to that man
Yeah.
because he has not received a lot of praise for this film, and neither has Donald Glover for his performance as Lando.
Yeah.
Um, and I would be open to seeing those two in their roles again because I
Yeah.
enjoyed this film.
It's just
Um,
sad that people don't like his performance because he doesn't look anything like Harrison Ford, and that's just not how you should base an actor's performance because he nailed everything else.
Yeah, and I think people just don't like it because he's not Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
You know, they were always going to have a problem with
Yeah.
this, and I completely understand. You know, it's like recasting Spider-Man in the PS4 game.
Yeah.
Like once people get attached to some character, they don't want to see somebody else in their
Mm.
shoes, because they want to see the original. But I think this movie's good overall. It definitely deserves a rewatch from Star Wars fans.
Mm.
So thank you everybody for listening to this episode of the Rewatch podcast. If you'd like to follow us on Instagram, you can do so at the Rewatch Pod. If you'd like to subscribe to the YouTube channel, just search the Rewatch on YouTube. We're going through the Mandalorian episodes
Yeah.
of season 2, so we'll film that shortly after this, and that'll be live before this comes out. So you can go check that out on the YouTube channel. So yeah, Mandalorian, it's going all right so far, but we'll give our thoughts every week as to each episode and how we enjoyed it, or maybe we didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
You have to find out. What are we doing for our next episode, Jaden?
We're doing Lucy, which is actually a 2014 film.
And you want to give the viewers a bit of a hint as to what that's about? Maybe they can go watch it on Netflix.
Yeah, so it's on Netflix, but honestly, I have got no idea what the plot is about. I was just recommended it by my dad, who was like, "Oh, it's a great film." And I was like, "Okay, I'll give it a watch." He said it's one of the best films he's watched in like 2 weeks or something. No, not 2 weeks. My bad. In quite a few years, 2 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was
Oh,
like, "Oh,
awesome.
damn. Okay, it must be pretty good." So I'll give that a watch.
Yes. Well, if it has Morgan Freeman,
Morgan.
then I'm. So yeah, no, look forward to that. That'll be coming out next week.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. Thank you for listening, everybody. Bye for now.
See ya.